Well, I'm Peck, and with my friend Chris tonight, we're going to be discussing hardcore wrestling and its return to prominence.
I'm excited.
I am too. And, the best part is we don't have to look for Japan for this stuff anymore.
Thank God, because the eBay fees were just driving me nuts.
Yeah, you'll certainly have that.
Well, why don't we kind of get into this? I remember we briefly talked about this twice. We talked about hardcore wrestling kind of phasing out. This was about 2 years ago, 2010. And then we talked about ECW, and we love both. So let me just pull up something real quick. If you want to, you can kind of, you want to segue into it. It's cool. I'm just going to pull up just some information about it.
Summer of 2 years ago, 2010, Rob Van Dam was TNA World Heavyweight Champion, and that seemed like it was the last attempt to really bring hardcore wrestling to the fold and hardcore justice. They pretty much made it essentially an ECW reunion under TNA guys, and it worked. It didn't, have complete perfection. It had a few hitches. Number one, Jerry Lynn being replaced by a bald Sabu, but they ended up having a better match because we saw Rob Van Dam against Jerry Lynn later in the years, and it wasn't good.
No.
Not good at all. And the lighting was a little strange. The setup was a little weird, but we were just glad to have it back.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
And, we saw probably the last really great hardcore match I remember was Bound for Glory 2010 when RVD wrestled Abyss.
Oh, yeah, that was nice.
I think we've just seen a general lack of wrestlers involved in hardcore recently. WWE had their recent attempt at WrestleMania 28. Is it 28 or 29? This was 28, right?
For which thing?
The most recent Mania was 28, right?
Yeah, we're on the verge of 29.
We had The Undertaker and Triple H in a Hell in a Cell match. Probably the most tame, least bloody, least violent Hell in a Cell match I've ever seen. You really didn't miss much. The Undertaker being bald and having a mohawk was probably the only hardcore part of it that shocked anybody. And if you've seen one Undertaker Triple H spot fest, you've seen them all.
Oh, yeah. Find the roster. Okay. So basically they did this whole thing back in 2000. Well, it started with Shane Douglas' thing back in 2004. They did a hardcore homecoming thing. Remember that? And then Vince McMahon got a little
They kind of took the ball
mad,
around with it, and they did ECW One Night Stand in 2005. It was such a success that they decided to bring back ECW full-time as a full-fledged promotion in 2006. We had a really solid card. We had WWE versus ECW. Granted, they had to convert a lot of WWE
give or
wrestlers
take
to ECW use.
Wasn't bad.
But it fit. Like, Kurt Angle actually, the fans embraced him because he was a real wrestler, and he was actually originally slated to be in ECW anyway, so it worked.
Yeah, my only pet peeve with that thing is like they did not make it look like a separate organization. They just made
did
it look
for
like
a while.
They did, but it still looked like a brand, and I'm like,
Well, that really died whenever... I don't even really want to say when the Big Show became champion, because you still had a lot of hardcore matches going on during that, and you'd still have a good 25-minute match on a 1-hour show, and you weren't really getting shafted, You'd have a good Extreme Rules match at the end of the night. But when they made Bobby Lashley champion, I had enough. He didn't fit the brand. He was just somebody that didn't fit on either brand. They just decided, hey, we're going to give you a world title situation.
Well, yeah, that was the problem with ECW, that when WWF brought it back, or whatever it's called, from the get-go, constantly a champion that people don't want, like the Big Show.
It wasn't a priority. You could tell that they were, and they always tried to use it. If they couldn't fit something on SmackDown, they made the main event. Like, I remember one time, the ECW fans booed them out of the building because it was Batista versus the Big Show.
Yeah.
Two WWE guys, one of which can't work a lick, the other of whom is Batista. No offense, Big Show, but, you serve a purpose, but not in that capacity.
Well, yeah, and it's just, they weren't making it look like a separate organization to some degree. It was just looking like another show, and it was just like... But I do correct myself. It wasn't that Hardcore Homecoming in 04, it was 05.
Hardcore Haven?
Oh. Well, Hardcore Homecoming, yeah, it was right. It was the same weekend they did the DCW One Night Stand,
Right.
And then they did another one, November Rain, which looked good. I think the main event was Jerry Lynn and Incredible in a cage match.
Mm-hmm.
Never saw it, but looked good. But, yeah, so then WWF just kind of ran with it, and... After One Night Stand 2007, they didn't even have most ECW show or guys weren't even on there. Like 1 or 2 ECW matches.
We've also seen a lot of hardcore only promotions fold. Like you remember XPW, which was famous for some of their hardcore matches. Shane Douglas was their champion for quite a long time. They had Just Incredible.
Yeah,
but they never really. I don't know what the issue was. I believe The owners of it actually produced hardcore pornography as well, which is
Well,
kind of ironic.
I heard a story too. I think Brandon and I heard, and I don't feel, I think it was, I don't know if it was through just people,
Allegedly.
allegedly, that one of the state representatives or something was in the audience one night, and their son got like blood all over them, and that was pretty much they got sued or something. That was the beginning of the end, and it never recovered. And I think they went out in late '02.
Yeah, I don't recall them being around even when I was in high school. So no, they weren't
Yeah, it wasn't
around.
wasn't long. And what else? I want to see the MLW. I love that. I thought that should have
Taken
lasted.
off.
Yeah, that was ECW to perfection.
We've seen Ring of Honor do a lot of hardcore stuff, but the issue with Ring of Honor is it's indie wrestling hardcore. It really is. The camera quality is so poor. You're really not getting.
Well, they're more technical. They're more about that Di Malenko, Guerrero
They are,
type
but
of
I mean,
style,
they've-
which is fine.
They've had some really good street fights and everything. And
Yeah, they
had
could do it.
tag team hardcore matches, but the production value is just not there. Put it this way, you need to be at ROH live to actually see it. If you watch it on TV, you're going to be disappointed. I've never watched my pay-per-view, though, so I can't really speak to the quality of those. But
I can't either. I don't understand it. I don't really trust it, and I don't want to watch it on the computer. I want to see it on demand. That's another problem with Ring of Honor. Get a pay-per-view that's available the night it's happening on television, cable, whatever you got to do.
Wasn't Hood Justice
Pay-per-view.
the Urban Wrestling Federation? Wasn't that available on pay-per-view?
The
If they
Urban
can
yes,
on TV, why can't Ring of Honor?
they have monthly pay-per-views pretty much, and they're taped, of course, but at least they're on there. You can see them.
I think Jim Cornette still needs help trying to figure out his cell phone and how to send a text message. So, I mean, that could be part of the problem.
Do you think the Urban Wrestling Federation will succeed? Because there was another Urban Wrestling Federation years UWA was called Urban Wrestling Alliance or something back in 2000, but they did have Orlando Jordan, Sonny Siaki, a couple other guys. This one bodybuilder I remember was in it.
I think there'll be a niche market. I think the only thing is diehards and comedy fans will appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be really hard for them to break out of that and expand, but I mean...
Yeah. I think it's unique. I mean, it's cool to have a, black urban culture type show. Why not?
I mean, put it this way. Think about it this way. If your local independent wrestling fed can operate, one Saturday out of the month for years, and you don't think they're that great, why can't Urban Wrestling Federation? I mean,
exactly.
The ones that we could go to, they don't even have TV deals. They barely have DVD sales.
And which is an interesting fact about this new promotion that we're going to talk about, their live attendance for their few shows that they had beat out TNA and Ring of Honor's live attendance, I think, combined here in the Western Pennsylvania area. So that's pretty pathetic. So, I mean, this promotion's been around 5 months, already beat out their competition at a live gate.
Why don't we back up a little bit and tell the audience what the promotion is and who started it? I'll give you a hint, it's a familiar face to hardcore wrestling, and, some of you fans might feel very strongly one way or the other about him, but, oh man, Shane Douglas.
Yeah, Ric Flair's nemesis and Johnny Ace's former tag team partner. I mean, it says a lot right there. It's exciting. I mean, Shane Douglas was serious about this, and I had a good vibe from the go because he wanted to do it. And he was serious about it.
Now, I've been accidentally referring to this as ECW for a long time. But
exactly.
The thing is, I don't know how Shane Douglas missed the boat on this. ECW ended up getting trademarked by another wrestling organization. It was apparently open for trademark, and Shane Douglas did nothing with it. So what do they call it? Hardcore?
This thing is called Extreme Rising.
Oh, Extreme Rising, that's it.
They're still fishing the ideas of having a name for it.
Is it Extreme Rising Wrestling or just Extreme Rising?
It's just called Extreme Rising here on the website. It doesn't really say anything else about a name. I know they're fishing names around. So
I'll tell you what, ERW does not sound bad.
No.
It really doesn't. I mean, it's one of those three-letter combinations you put together and it sounds okay.
And you want to read the roster here? Doesn't look bad.
Not like WWE, which if you try to say it fast, just sounds like wee-wee.
This is pretty impressive. Sabu, Matt Hardy, the Sandman, Jerry Lynn, the Gangsters, Homicide, Crowbar, Perry Saturn, Batista 666, who is Damien 666's, I think, nephew or son. Pesadilla, who's related to Super Crazy as well. Stevie Richards, Little Guido, Blackout, never heard of them, they look cool. Blue Meanie, Tony Mamaluke, Luke Hawk, C.W. Anderson, Balls Mahoney, Pitbull, Gary Wolf, The Dramatics, Shane Douglas, of course. I don't think he really wrestles that much. Axel Rotten, Raven, and Al Snow. That's not too bad.
No, there really isn't. And a lot of those guys, I mean, you may say, well, there's no real star power there, but I mean, these guys have been in the business for 15 plus years, a lot of them, and the
Yeah.
fact that they still draw crowds whenever they go to indie shows and whatnot, they're doing something right. I mean, if you've had a career over 8 years, that's more than good.
And apparently they're coming back to Philadelphia November 17th at the National Army Guard Arena. So
Yeah.
tickets are a little pricey, but
Well, you'll have that.
yeah, they're not there to make friends. It looks pretty solid. It's a good website. I'm looking at the rings; they look all right. I think there's definitely a market for this.
I think so too, especially because WWE has just become so far tamed to the point that we don't even get real wrestling matches. I mean, we
No.
get 3-minute squashes on Raw. Our main events are terrible. You drag out feuds for so long that no one cares about. And you make people like Daniel Bryan your champion who can't even body slam somebody, let alone take a chair shot.
Yeah, I don't know. I was listening to what Kevin Nash said. He was just saying that guys like Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, they're just not realistic. They're not larger than life. And I can kind of understand that.
I agree with him on Daniel Bryan. CM Punk has
Not so much. Yeah, I mean,
CM Punk, they invested time and energy marketing.
Yeah.
And, he was actually a success. I mean, let's not forget, he was a world champion long before the whole famous shoot promo.
and the thing is, too, they don't consider that Ric Flair really wasn't much of a heavyweight. He's more towards a cruiserweight.
And Ric Flair wasn't a merchandise seller, per se. He
Yeah.
wasn't a big T-shirt guy.
No.
He was popular everywhere he went.
So, I mean, really, can you compare those? I mean, you can't compare the careers, but you can say that, hey, body-wise, they're about the same. Same with the Steamboat, Ricky Steamboat,
Sure.
So, I mean, champions come in all shapes and sizes, and it really depends on the draw and the fans.
As for the hardcore thing, TNA only does it in limited amounts. But when they do, I gotta say, their hardcore matches are always pretty quality. Except for the whole backstage brawl involving Sting, Kevin Nash, Judas Messias, and a pink door. That was bad. That was probably the low point of TNA, but that's completely different.
A little rough, I'm trying to see this Philly show, if there's any previews. They're not really saying much. There's going to be this double cage match or something.
That's interesting.
Yeah, our
I'm kind of
fans.
afraid to actually be in the audience because I don't know who put that thing together. But
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to. It doesn't really tell me much. Let me see if I get some news on it.
while we're on the subject of hardcore wrestling, do you feel like there's a certain time of the year that hardcore wrestling takes more and the fans are more enthusiastic about it, or do you think it can be done pretty much all the way throughout?
I think it's all the way throughout, but the big organizations used to kind of focus on one pay-per-view for a lot of hardcore. Like WWE did Uncensored, that was a lot of hardcore.
True. WWE had One Night Stand.
One Night
Extreme
Stand.
Rules, whatever they changed
Extreme
it to.
Rules.
TNA has Hardcore Justice, but it seems like the summer is just the de facto
Yeah.
hardcore wrestling period because I guess it's like the dog days of summer. They just need a gimmick to get people involved if they don't have a big summer show, which TNA doesn't. Theirs is in October.
Yes, and that's a problem in itself. The last couple Bound for Glories haven't been,
They've been solid though.
they've been solid, but they've been booked wrong. Like I remember I was listening to one of our podcasts from 2 years ago, and it's the same problem last year. They don't tell you what the matches are till 3 days before the thing starts. There's like 5 matches, 6 booked, and there's going to be 10.
Right.
But they can work on that. Really, TNA did that too. They had in the summer, and then they usually had the Monsters Ball at Bound for Glory. You'd wait for that hardcore match.
I miss that. I
do
haven't
too.
done that in a while. And the other thing is, what we really have never seen a lot of is hardcore matches at WrestleMania. Ladder
Yeah.
matches, I kind of tend to make a distinction because ladder matches, they're big spots, but they usually don't involve a lot of blood. To me, really, the only hardcore match that I remember from WrestleMania that sticks out in my mind is Edge versus Mick Foley.
Yeah, that was that was kind of like the prelude to ECW's coming back.
And that was just really, we should have seen the signs and read the tea leaves a little better watching that WrestleMania because that same night, Rob Van Dam won the Money in the Bank briefcase. We should have seen it coming. But I really liked how those two ended up on a collision course and, ended up fighting in vengeance. It was good, but, the whole thing ended due to RVD's drug suspension.
Here's the information I got on this. Double main event will feature the first ever crowning of the Extreme Rising Champion in a steel cage match. Sorry, it wasn't double cage. Where the fans will vote what match will be in the cage. That's pretty cool.
That's nice.
There's fan interaction for the slaughtering, so that's good.
Good.
Looks like we'll see more, ECW kind of guys like, probably Sabu will show up and Too Cold Scorpio and, all your favorites. So that's good. You need this. And it's good that they're bringing in a lot of ECW guys that can kind of still go because at least they'll do that. And
I mean, Too Cold Scorpio, I've watched him come in, not know who his opponent was because Low-Key decided not to show up. And he ended up just, showing up that day, working a 25-minute match with just one of the local indie guys. It was one of the best wrestling matches I've ever seen live in person. I mean, you're getting a quality product.
Yeah, it's not like some shim sham, guy, which is good. This fly's kind of dumb. Whoa, wow, I think he's dying. I'll get him. One quick thing, too, I like about Shane Douglas, there was problems with Sabu, Just Incredible, and some other guys with drugs and drinking.
Rode through it.
Yeah.
And he tried to get them clean, and they went to the hospital, and it seems like they're working through it. I mean, we can't talk drug problem without mentioning Matt Hardy anymore lately. It seems it's a shame. I really hope he gets his head on straight and has a career.
I hope so, too. I don't know if he knows what he's doing,
I don't know. I mean, that could him and his girlfriend, they've never actually seen her, but
I was reading
some issues with that.
Yeah, I mean, God knows. Would it be in their best interest to maybe bring in Sid Vicious?
I really don't know. He's a name, but he really looked bad at WWE when he showed up.
He did.
I was shocked that he was able to do a leg drop and then get back up.
Like, he's, I guess, in good shape for his age, but you could tell, 10 years made the difference on Sid.
I mean, he'd be a name. I'd personally plunk down maybe $10 additional to see Sid because, I never got the chance to see him live growing up.
I saw him once.
Yeah.
He destroyed Razor Ramon and just took the belt, I think.
Was that for the Intercontinental title?
Yeah. It was just a slaughter. But yeah, I don't know if it'll hurt or help. He was part of ECW, but then again, so was Scott Hall.
But I mean, here's the thing. If he thumbs his nose at TNA, I don't think he's going to go to a smaller promotion.
No.
I don't even think he'd take ROH money.
Well, here's the options for this November 17th show in the cage. Jerry Lynn and Devin Storm. Option 1. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Batista 666 against Pasadillo. That's one other thing, too. Lucha Libre Wrestling. Glad it's coming back. Someone's doing it. Stevie Richards against Luke Hawx. They got a nice little feud going on.
Is there a Raven option anywhere in here?
No, I'm sorry. The Gangsters against Blackout, which might be interesting.
I guess I'm going to go with Stevie Richards for versus Luke Hawx for the world title. That's all I can think of.
Last option is Matt Hardy against Homicide. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm probably going with you on that one.
I might want to watch Matt Hardy versus the entity of Homicide and the idea of Homicide, but I might not really want to watch him wrestle Homicide. Really? I mean, do you really want to trust somebody like that with a title and then explain why he didn't show up?
Yeah.
Allegedly.
It's like, I'm sorry. Well, they're supposed to be coming here, so I can't wait till they come to the Pittsburgh area. We're probably going to have to go on the roster because it's all these promotions know about. They've never heard of the convention center.
It's closer than Washington County for us.
It must be cheap. I don't know. That's why they book these places. I would go.
I imagine so.
I would think the Monroeville Convention Center or the convention center downtown.
There's probably some rules against that, although I wonder how structured they could be, because I went to Monroeville Convention Center for a horror convention, and there was nudity in every movie, not that I minded.
Yeah, see, I mean, so what's wrong with Perry Saturn putting, a luchador through a table,
Is he going to bring Moppy with him?
I hope so.
Oh, I really do.
Moppy and Pepe should get together and just do something special.
And that's another thing. WWE ruined a perfectly good thing in the early 2000s. If you have something good, you don't overdo it to the point that the fans hate it.
I know.
I mean, having a belt that changes hands 9 times in one night, it's a nice little novelty, but the match quality just wasn't there.
No. And this is the thing, too. I'm glad someone's doing the extreme wrestling promotion the right way. Because, we saw the TNA version. It was okay, but it wasn't the best. I heard that Francine's had a promotion that did it, and it was terrible.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with wrestlers being concerned about safety and the new focus on concussions. But you don't have to hit somebody in the head with a steel chair to have a good hardcore match. You can hit them in the back and still have a good match.
No, a lot of the shows really didn't even have them. Some of the mid-'90s ones, there was 1 or 2 really, really hardcore ones. The other ones, they threw a chair in the ring or went through a table, but it wasn't like Concussion City.
Yeah, really. You could do a lot just by bringing in the ring barriers and jumping off of them. We've seen RVD, Jeff Hardy, S.A. Rios. Yeah, I went there. They made a living out of doing that, and they, added a lot to the match quality.
Who do you think they should get? Is there anybody else missing from this equation?
Uh,
I think some Japanese wrestlers.
oh, absolutely. I mean, I think you could bring in. I don't see why you can't get Tajiri.
Yeah.
I would reach out to Hakushi, depending on age and everything.
Yeah, maybe some solid, just new
Try
workers.
And bring in, guest appearance from Jushin Thunder Liger, maybe.
Something rare.
Yeah, maybe Hayabusa if you can get him, just something like that. Maybe try to get some of the IWC guys, get like Super Hentai maybe, or some of those people.
Anybody, I mean.
Just people that can wrestle the style, people that can fit in. Not anybody that's going to show up. Like, we don't need Tracy Smothers.
Well, no, not really, unless it's like a nostalgia. A lot of those guys came from like that Southern wrestling thing.
What kind of nostalgia would I ever have about Tracy Smothers?
He was part of the FBI just for that, to say.
Really?
But him, Ricky Morton, Tommy Rich, they were all coming from that Smoky Mountain at the time that I think closed down, so they needed jobs. They went to ECW. It was really funny. Like in 1997, these guys just all started showing up.
I think it would be funny to see the Judge.
The Judge would be cool.
I always liked him as a character. He was funny. And do they have a Joe Gertner by any chance?
I didn't see any sign of him, so he'd be another option.
I mean, as hesitant as his promo was at Hardcore Justice 2010, it made me laugh.
I think they could do something with him.
I mean, it was a little weird hearing him mention Lady Gaga, but hey, he keeps up with the times.
He does. So that'd be like a manager type of guy would be good. I don't
really
know.
The only name missing, and he's proven that he's just a WWE leech, Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
I mean, really, you create ECW, and the thing people only imagine or remember you as is being Brock Lesnar's manager.
Yeah.
Is that really what you want to be known for?
No, he should be a part of it. He should swallow his pride and get in there. What
Paul
about?
Heyman has too many people a lot of money to swallow anything.
Yeah, he won't call you back either. So. No. What about A. Cole Cabana?
I think he'd be good. I mean,
he's funny.
It's just he's actually mixed up with JCW though, the Insane Clown Posse promotion. Ooh. He wrestles for them, but there's a lot of potential for cross promotion there. I mean, they love hardcore wrestling.
We forgot about them. They are a hardcore type of group.
Yeah, they are. All their matches are. Though I remember I read a result on Lords of Pain and I started laughing because it was the most sickening hardcore thing I've ever heard.
Oh God!
One of the wrestlers got choked out and then vomited soon afterward.
Oh, well, you know what? I remember seeing the Gathering of the Juggalos, and it was like DX against the NWO. I'm like, that's pretty cool. Why isn't this on DVD? So they might need some more help, promotion-wise, marketing. Mm-hmm. But Douglas is on it. He's got 3 DVDs available in November. So, or they might be available now. I don't know. But
he's done a lot of different things. He's done ghost hunting. He's had some friends that were involved in some horror movies and whatnot. He's done a really good job diversifying himself, and now I'm really glad he's getting into the promotional aspect. I mean, he kept himself in really good shape, but I think it's time for him to use his mind for the wrestling business a little more and see what he can do in terms as a booker.
Yeah, I think he knows what to do.
I mean, you can't be any worse than Kevin Nash. That's the standard for being bad in wrestling.
It looks like these DVDs available now. Yeah, 3 of them for $50. A little pricey, but
3 for $50 though. I mean, that is.
Yeah. I mean, they're just trying to make a quick buck, which I understand. They're just a startup company. Longevity wise, looking at this roster, probably Richards, Crowbar, they're probably like in the better shape of the other guys.
I mean, the only thing is a lot of the people on this roster have a lifespan of maybe 5. I'm not talking about physical lifespan. I'm talking about career-wise. I'm saying 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
On a lot of them, but
like Homicide, Matt Hardy, you can get some more time.
There's so many indie guys that just want a shot of exposure.
Yeah, they need to get more indie.
Names. I mean, they could look at Dragon Gate. There's all kinds of promotions out there that you can take one good wrestler from and, see what you can do with them.
Exactly. I was watching, I see Lucha Libre USA on True TV on those like shows, and when they use them for security, they have the old Alice security on there. And I'm like, I'd like to see that on TV.
You can take somebody that's missing one element and then bring them up and polish them. And you can take somebody that's not good on the mic, throw a mask on them, and see what you can do with them.
It just depends.
What I'd like to see them do a little more of, just as a sideshow thing, because every company has it, women's wrestling.
Yeah.
I think they could do a little more with that.
Well, I remember reading like they're gonna get they crown Women of Extreme or whatever in this promotion. But I don't know who it was. No one I've really ever heard of. I don't know if they can do any return type of feuds where they people you haven't seen for a while. come back. Um, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I'd like to see Danny Doring and Roadkill come back, and wrestle again in this group. That's a group they're missing. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. I mean, Johnny Swinger, I don't know if he really wrestles anymore. Any other ECW guys I can think of? I mean,
not really. No, I mean,
what TNA brought in, you can just see that time has not been kind to them. So.
some of them, yeah. I mean, I think there's just definitely just a general pervading void in terms of hardcore wrestling where we really have to go to other promotions. We're not really getting it from the big two anymore. TNA does when they do its quality, but we just don't get enough of it.
No. I see, and that was the problem with TNA. They didn't know if they wanted to be ECW, they didn't know if they wanted to be WCW, or they didn't know if they wanted to be like the old USWA. They had like such an identity.
To be like WWE.
Yeah, they had such an identity crisis at times. I think Hogan's kind of got them like on the WCW type path, looking at the product.
Although,
but
if you look at where they've been, I really like just how unique they are because they've had a time period where they've done a little bit of just about everything, and their earlier stuff. I mean, some of those styles matches were just phenomenal. I mean, you can't. Not to use his tagline, but I mean, you really can't describe them as anything but.
Yeah, I wish they would just get more of those phenomenal matches back.
And we used to have a lot more hardcore wrestling because they had Raven. He would feud with Vampiro. They had Hangman's Horror. He'd feud with DDP.
Yeah.
He'd feud with Abyss. I mean, I remember Abyss versus Raven when Raven was TNA champion. Probably one of his only title defenses on a pay-per-view was against Abyss in a dog collar match. I mean, it worked.
It did. It was something different. It was, they were filling the void that fans were missing. It was something special. But with this new hardcore homecoming type of group here, I think, if they stay the course, they get more indie talent, they can prevail. The only problem is Vince McMahon going to swash them? Is he going to see what's going on, like Ring of Honor and TNA at times, and take talent? It's inevitable, I think.
I think it is, but I think a lot of the talent's already a lot older, and they've already been burned by WWE. I mean, the Sandman won't go back to WWE. You remember what happened to him whenever he was on Raw? And he ended up jobbing out to Carlito. It was horrible.
Same thing with Super Crazy, which I heard they're going to actually bring in for this group. They jobbed him out. He was like the Hacksaw's partner. It was terrible. They had ECW, they didn't put him even in it. They brought it back. It was terrible.
Yeah, and then they replaced it with NXT. And,
ugh.
I mean, really, if you think about it, the only group that ever prospered from there was the Nexus, and of that, only Wade Barrett and now, I guess, Ride Backwards have a career.
Yeah, and this is where I kind of see like WWE and TNA going backwards. Like they just keep going to groups. Do groups really help? Do they hurt? I don't know.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I thought the Nexus thing was one of the only interesting things to happen in wrestling.
In a while,
WWE in like 2009, 2010. But if you look at it now, it's like, wow, Wade Barrett's the only relevant one, and now you had to repackage somebody completely, make us forget about him, give him RVD's airbrush artist, name him Ryback, and have him start squashing people to make him be like a Bill Goldberg type, and that's the only two people from your group to succeed. You buried Justin Gabriel, who has all the potential in the world.
Yeah, I don't get it. Actually, who I'd like to see come in this group would be Kevin Thorne and Gangrel.
Where is Kevin Thorne?
Him and Gangrel, and actually Crowbar, and I think somebody else. I don't know about Crowbar. Maybe I was wrong. But they're in that Canadian thing, that XFW or something like that. I've seen them, so they wrestle in Canada. I would like to see them there, because Gangrel's only about 40, so he's not that old.
Kevin Thorne, he...
In 30s, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he had some wrestling ability. I mean, he maybe wasn't given the best gimmick of all time, but, I mean, he was at least decent. Speaking
of,
I would like to see them, now that you mention it, I would like to see James Mitchell. I think he would.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody from the New Church who was affiliated with it is still alive. I think that tag team they had, if any of them are still kicking, they'd be useful.
Yeah, I think so, too.
Really, James Mitchell could do anything from manage The Undertaker to go back to TNA. I mean, whatever they want to do with him.
Any legends, like older legends, do you think that would be really helpful? There really isn't any that I can't really...
I mean, it just depends on your definition of legend and what you're going to have to pay for them. Somebody that's not going to wrestle. I mean, you don't want to be TNA and pay Hulk Hogan all this money for...
Yeah,
you're not getting out of it.
I mean, the
You're
exposure's...
his daughter ruining an entire division of wrestling. I mean, she's running the women's division into the ground.
Well, the exposure's probably nice, if that's what they want, but still, I mean, if someone's not going
to... $2 million a year to a guy that doesn't get in the ring.
Yeah, it's total waste.
People still buy merchandise, but isn't most of his stuff trademarked by WWE anyway?
I don't know. I think he owns Hulkamania now because he uses it in TNA.
I guess.
This fly will be the death of me. Well, here's a question. Remember how we were talking about WWE's version of ECW? What do you think went wrong? I mean, there's so many things, but was it just Vince McMahon not letting Paul Heyman do his thing?
The biggest thing that went wrong was whenever they announced that they were going to package ECW with SmackDown, come to big arenas,
Yeah,
in a family setting.
that was bad.
You cannot do that with ECW. ECW was never about your kids.
Mm-mm.
It was never about buying your kids an action figure.
No.
I mean, if you did, they weren't with you. I mean, you can take the more mature kids there, the ones that had an understanding of, okay, you can't do this.
Yeah.
Don't hit anyone with a chair. Kind of like taking, like a kid to an R-rated movie. That was basically what ECW was to wrestling. And I think just trying to throw it in there with SmackDown and everything else, I mean, you kind of had to treat it as its own thing.
It should have been separate.
It had a good track record with the younger guys. People forget CM Punk, John Morrison, all those people cut their teeth in ECW as main eventers.
Yeah, I think that was
champion.
fine. It's just how they made it. Like they watered it down too much.
They
There was
put
no
Chavo
extreme.
Guerrero in it. I mean,
There's no hardcore.
You made Tommy Dreamer and Christian and Mark Henry and Ezekiel Jackson and all these idiots champion that don't belong anywhere near a wrestling ring.
Well, and it was losing its identity. If they would have made like a whole separate company and then showing, like a Bobby Lashley come in, it would have made sense.
Because
Oh yeah, he didn't care.
he felt that no one should ever mention it again.
But
after
why?
they bought it.
I don't understand that. I don't understand why Vince McMahon does that. Like, is he just that egotistical? I mean, like if something's gonna make you money, just ride with it. Who cares?
I think, it's like one of those things we learned in communications. You don't stress your competitor's strengths that much. You always talk about your own.
Exactly.
Build up your own. But when you haven't really created all that many stars in recent years,
No.
you really can't. I mean, if you look at all the people that they've made stars out of, they've gotten them from somewhere else. I mean, The Miz, he kind of rose on his own, but then he crashed back to earth in spectacular fashion.
Some of the guys understood what they put there, like Hardcore Holly. He's hardcore. I get it. Test. All right.
Test was a stiff worker, and I've seen him kick many a person in the mouth and then not get back up. But
I thought
as a wrestler, he was good. I mean, he hurt a lot of people, but
I wouldn't have minded if it was just a separate company. Like it looked like a separate company. They made the arenas different, the small arenas.
Logos were different. You had ECW logos.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
they were doing it at the beginning, but they were doing it sloppy, and they were doing local tours. Like they came to Ross Draver and other places, but then they just got sloppy.
what also I didn't like, I think at the very beginning, as much of an RVD fan as I am, I think they made a fundamental mistake. Whenever they had RVD win the title, I think he should have just rebranded it the ECW title instead of them just bringing back the old one and handing it to him. Because ECW was never about handing anybody a world title. That was Monday Night Raw and Eric Bischoff handing a belt to Triple H without him ever winning anything. You remember that?
Mm-hmm. That was bad.
I think that was a mistake. Because you had essentially a second world title that no one won. Maybe, and I think it could have succeeded on its own without him. I mean, don't get me wrong, it got them a lot of exposure by having him beat John Cena on pay-per-view, and John Cena is everything that ECW fans hate. But at the same time, I think they would have been more appreciative if somebody else might have won it in a tournament, or they would have just rebranded it the ECW title for a while.
Here's a question too. Remember, like when they were doing that storyline of Paul Heyman, he was doing that. What the heck was it? They did the security thing. Who were those? Did they ever? I mean, I heard it was the Bastions, but they never really unveiled them. I think.
Oh yeah, no, they didn't.
Because he got fired, and then that was the end. It was just.
If we really look back at it, though, they had a chance to bring ECW back when Paul Heyman was general manager of SmackDown. I mean, you had Rhino, you had them working hardcore matches. You had Benoit, aka he who should not be named or mentioned. You had people like that, and I thought they could have really, done it a couple of years earlier, but they didn't.
Yeah. It's just bad, and there's no way around that, how terrible that was. It drove me nuts.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if recently, I don't know. The problem is a lot of the people are older now. A lot of the indie talent we don't know.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of what can we do with what we have.
Well, it was interesting, like, that IWC, our one friend wrestles for them. This fly's going to kill us. They did a concept where it was all the young guys. It was called Proving Ground, their show. And I think maybe this ECW group should do something like that, where it's all this young talent, and the fans vote for like kind of like who they want silently after the show or something like that. Not like on the show where it's like ridiculously stupid. Just to get an idea, feel who did you like, who didn't you like, and then kind of sign the guys who you think the fans like. Kind of do a trial run. And they always did do that, but just more feedback from the fans.
I think so. I think that would be useful because, I mean, really, if you look at it, there are certain guys that the fans just absolutely hate. The companies ran down our throats. Case in point, Garrett Bischoff.
Ugh.
Can't work a lick, can't throw a clothesline. Skinnier than I am, and that's saying something.
Eddie Munster, man.
Tramp stamp, awful wrestling, girly tattoos, create a wrestler wouldn't even be as boring as you. I mean, he's just awful.
He was terrible.
Thank God he's been off the show. I hope he hurt himself curling a 5-pound dumbbell. That's probably how he injured himself.
Isn't that the problem? Like, people that have power in the business who let their family get a push who really don't deserve a push yet. That's a big problem.
Eric Bischoff.
Yeah.
Now, the only one I will say that it actually worked, Shane McMahon. Never saw a bad Shane McMahon match.
And he wasn't like a technical guy, of course, because that wasn't really the gimmick or the angle, but he was good.
Did what he needed to do, and he put his body on the line, didn't care. He made the fans cheer.
And I really wouldn't mind Garrett Bischoff, but I just don't think this ridiculous...
I would mind Garrett Bischoff. Is anything other than a referee, I would mind Garrett Bischoff. He's god-awful. Well, he serves no purpose in the ring.
It's the push we don't need yet. Why is he almost in a main event type of status?
They scaled back on that.
Thank God.
I think they lost a lot of fans because of that.
Yeah, he's not ready yet. You don't put him...
Send him to OVW.
Is the main guy in lockdown. I mean, it's just...
Well, they put that match on first. I mean, he really wasn't.
I did enjoy that match, though, because Eric Bischoff was just in the corner hiding for like 10 minutes.
It was vintage Eric Bischoff.
It was great.
It was the good parts of Eric Bischoff, not the parts that killed WCW.
I wonder who this person that actually bought the rights to ECW, what they're actually going to do, because this kind of puts this...
What I want to know is how much they paid, because
where did this...
trademark ECW for like $7.95, I'm going to be mad.
I know, and I always look that stuff up, too, in WCW legal, like, a lot of the trademarks are done, they're dead. So, I mean...
And a lot of the music and whatnot.
Yeah, and there's actually a lawsuit from one of the WCW composers suing WWE for, like, unlawful usage of his, music
and not getting any of the royalties.
Yeah,
because they used it on
everything.
And everything. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't blame him. And that's what kind of gets me annoyed too when WWE Classics on demand they dub over music and just pay the rights, get the original thing going. Don't overdo. I hate that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to talk about this promotion. I wish it the best. I hope it does well. I don't see why it wouldn't, because there's just a fan base. But that really says something. A company that just started in 5 months with, pretty decent internet exposure, but not a lot. The fans found the shows, and they did more, like one show than TNA and ROH did combined.
And I would say don't make the same mistake that ECW did. Don't go from Pennsylvania and then jump to Florida all of a sudden, because... Not a lot of people are going to know you down there. Even with the internet and everything else, it's still going to be really tough to, sell...
Yeah, stay in
raw. Do it regionally, expand slowly.
Exactly. Stay in like Philly, New York, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Ohio.
Yeah, for right now.
New Jersey, if you wanted.
And then spread, maybe north a little bit. Try to get some of the Canadian fans in Buffalo.
I think you could get a good fan base in Canada, because there was an extreme Canadian championship wrestling up there.
If you have a show in Buffalo, a lot of people from Toronto come over to go to a lot of Buffalo events. So, I mean, you could get people from across the border for that. That'd be fine.
I don't think this will die yet. I think it's going to go strong for at least a couple of years.
We'll see. I mean, we don't really know. I mean, the good thing is there's almost nobody that WWE would want to pilfer.
No, I mean, let me just briefly looking. I mean, maybe the Luchador guys, but I don't even think them.
I think they're realizing that they have their Luchadors. I mean, they have Botch Cara, and they have Hunico, Epico, Nacho, Camacho.
Yeah, what is that about?
I don't know. They can't wrestle. I know that much. I hate Sin Cara. He's god-awful. He's an insult to anything that's ever worn a mask, including the Shockmaster.
This is like hurt all the time person,
Well, this is also the person that also hurts everyone else. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Well, that pretty much wraps it up, I think.
Yeah, that's it for Hardcore Wrestling.
All right, well, take care, buddy.
I'm Chris.
You're Chris?
God,
That's awesome. I'm Peck. See ya.
Oh, boy.